So, what's that thing? Who's seen one of them by a show of hands? Who's not seen one of them? Everybody else. Fantastic. So, this is just my latest skill, or half skill I've picked up. And it's the end of a long journey of learning over the years. I've done so many things wrong and so many things badly that I've really spotted a pattern in how I learn. And then I've talked to other people about how they learn, and I think that it's a fairly universal pattern. In fact, when you look it up, there's something on Wikipedia called the 4 levels of competence, and it goes back to the 1970s. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is a very simple framework to help you to understand where you are in your learning journey. So imagine a world where everybody, A, understands the process of learning, and B, actually takes full responsibility for learning themselves. We don't just sit in a classroom and expect somebody to push knowledge into our heads, but we go out and seek the answers to the challenges in front of us. Every one of these talks has led to the need to learn something new or shift your perspective. So it's really important you understand the basics of learning. Now, all I've got time for today, in the 16 minutes I've got left, is to give you a simple framework. I'm going to overview it for you, then we're going to demonstrate it physically, because this is an amazing visual metaphor for the process of learning, and then I'll recap it for you. So the 4 stages goes like this. You start off unconsciously incompetent. You don't know what's involved. So some of you guys are seeing me on this. You have no idea yet what's involved in learning it. And please, don't take yourself out the game at this stage. You're not yet. If you haven't set foot on one of these, and by the way, as I talk, I'd like you to think about something you either want to learn or something that you are stalled in the process of learning. Can you think of something that you want to learn, or that you're stuck trying to learn, or maybe you give up on and you want to go back to one day, but you've got all these stories about why you're not doing it? So stage 1, you are unconsciously incompetent, and until you've tried it, you've got no idea what's involved. You are not qualified to disqualify yourself from learning that. You have no idea what's involved, right? That's stage 1. Now, what you need at stage 1 to even do what Alex is doing here, to even set foot on it, is you need a purpose. You need a reason to try it, because there's risks. You could fall off, definitely. Look at my shins. Bad. That's the fault. You could look an idiot. I already did earlier. It's fine. But if you have enough purpose, you will try. So step number 1, the first P, to go from unconsciously incompetent to consciously incompetent, yeah? You have to have enough purpose. As soon as you've got enough purpose, you'll just try it. So you start trying it. Now, at this stage, you need to play, because you've got the wrong analysis right now. You do not know even what you need to be doing. You have no idea what you need to be doing. So Alex has just got to play with this thing now. He's got to try twisting it, folding it. It's much more awkward than you'd think. But so is learning a language. So is learning to fly an airplane. So is learning to program a computer. So is learning to run a business. I failed 10 times. The first 10 businesses I started failed. Not good, but I didn't give up, which is going to be, we'll talk about in a moment. So at this stage, Alex is playing. He's consciously incompetent. He has the wrong analysis. And provided you get to this stage with a good median expectation, a good middle ground expectation about how long it should take, you'll be all right. If you put one foot on it, like I see a lot of people do, and go, oh, I can't do it. Well, you're right. Of course you can't do it. But it's impossible to do it immediately. So get some median expectation for how long it should take. And eventually, when you play enough, and it is playful, you fiddle with it, you may have had the experience where you go, I think I know what I need to do. You think you know what you need to do. Kind of, it's all about the hip thing, right? It's the twist. Yeah. Knowing what you need to do is fine, but now the hard work starts. You may now have got to the point of, I know what I need to do, and I'm going to set about doing it repeatedly with conscious competence. You're going to wobble, but you know you've got your analysis right. You know that if you fall to the left, you twist to the left. You know that if you fall to the right, you twist to the right. But his mind is still in the way, right? He'll fix that. And you're conscious, kind of, well done. Nobody saw that. And this stage is effortful, right? It's hard work. You knock signs over. Things go wrong. And interesting, the word effort has the word fought in it. I find that really interesting. It has the word fought. It's to do with the root of the word strength. So by making this effort, you're going to wobble. You're going to veer off course. But I don't want you to judge yourself based on how much you wobble, but how your wobbles are decreasing in amplitude. Okay, thanks, Alex. That's cool. Yeah? So what's happening there is his wobbles are getting smaller. His divergence from where he wants to be is getting smaller and smaller. And that's the progress you're looking for. If you're wobbling and you're making no progress, you're not actually getting anywhere. But because you're starting to speed up the feedback loop, you're starting to get ahead of what you're learning. If it's a language, you're starting to think further ahead. If it's an aeroplane, you're flying ahead of the aeroplane. Eventually, the skill will become unconsciously competent. Yeah? Now you're not trying anymore. You can go backwards, you can eat your lunch, you can be on the phone. Okay, thanks, Alex. Thank you very much. Okay, so so there, in a very practical sense, is the journey from unconsciously incompetent. Please, guys, do not do what I've done so many times and take yourself out the game before you even try. You can go and have a private victory first. You can go and try this thing on your own. In fact, it's a really good idea to go and try things privately at first, because one of the biggest fears is the fear of humiliation. You don't have to go and learn that in public. You don't have to learn a language, even by speaking to somebody else at first if you don't want. You don't have to do anything in public at first. You can start to try and have little victories. Because be honest with yourselves about where your level of self-esteem is. Because there's so many things I've given up on because I've made a massively elaborate story about why I'm not doing it. And actually it's BS. It's complete rubbish. It's a story to protect my ego or to prevent me from embarrassing myself or from failing. So, number one, get a strong enough purpose, give it a go. Once you've given something a go, you're now consciously incompetent. You've got some idea of where you're falling short. Then you've got to move into a playful phase. You've got to just explore. You don't need anybody else to tell you what the correct analysis is. If you're willing to play and explore and discover for yourself in your own language and your own terms what the solution is. Now, if you've got some domain-specific knowledge, it helps. I learned that quicker because I know a bit about physics and I've had another go on a unicycle, but most of that fell out the window. The reality is you just feel it and you get your own internal analysis. It doesn't have to be verbalized. You get an analysis of what you need to do. But you're not there yet. You are now consciously incompetent with an idea. Then the hard work starts. Now you've got to persist at making that idea come true. Now you may have had the wrong idea. And the way to judge is by looking at, if your idea is I'm going to settle to this behavior, are you settling? Are you getting better? Not am I wobbling, not am I driving the car badly, riding the bicycle badly, but am I wobbling less and less and less? If you are, inevitably, eventually you'll stop wobbling. And there's a huge difference between riding that wobbling and not. And as soon as you stop, it's unconscious and it looks effortless because you've done the hard work of embedding the habit, and that's how you embed the habit. Okay, there's another trick here, which I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about, but there's a missed opportunity. I've got 150-odd thousand, thank you to me, and thank you to the students in this room, 150-odd thousand students of computer game development on the internet. And the way that I've been able to put myself in their perspective is to teach what I teach just after I've learnt it. And that can only happen at the stage when you're consciously competent. Because if you leave it too long, if you don't capture your own learning process, you will have forgotten what was jargon. You will have forgotten what was easy and what was hard. You will have forgotten the pace that you learnt and the sticking points. So please, when you're consciously competent, when you're wobbling, if there's any chance you're going to teach this to somebody else, and that could mean your son, your daughter, your husband, your wife, your colleagues, anybody, and please give make a chance to teach it to somebody, make a YouTube video. Capture that process. Don't teach it yet for a couple of reasons. Number one, you don't know that you've got the right analysis. You don't know you're ever going to get there. Even when Alex is wobbling and not wobbling less, he doesn't know for sure that he's ever going to crack it. It's what we call in our courses the Cul-De-Sac Problem. If we're teaching somebody to make a computer game, we can feel like we're coding ourselves closer and closer to the solution. It doesn't count for anything. Because you can feel with a map and compass in a city like you're getting closer to a destination, right? Because it's getting less and less distance. But how about if you're in a cul-de-sac? How about if the only route from here to your destination is all the way back round here? People don't like following you all the way back round a route. So you better go to the destination at least once first. You better learn to ride it. But very soon after, capture the process of learning, because that could be really, really valuable to other people. Don't leave it for years and decades and become decorated and then go, oh, I've forgotten how I learned this. Yeah? So that's really all I've got to share here. Once you have mastered the new skill and become unconsciously competent at it, you're going to need to start the whole cycle again. You're going to need to shift your perspective and get a new problem, get a new challenge. It can be the same thing. Ideally, it's the same lane. But you do something else. You learn to ride it backwards. You learn to ride it downstairs. You whatever. But you give yourself new challenges. You don't need to do that. It's okay. All right. So again, imagine a world in which everybody understands these 4 stages of learning: unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, that awkward phase, and then unconscious competence, that mastery phase. If everybody understood where they were in that, and if everybody took total ownership of their own learning process and didn't expect anybody else to learn for them, just sounds ridiculous, what could we achieve? Thank you.